All right, welcome along to this week's group coaching call. This is about the Norwegian Method, which is a reasonably, um, let's say, media-friendly training methodology that's become quite popular in the last few years. A number of high-profile athletes use it consistently, and a number have used it and have moved on to try the next fad or to resume their previous training methodology. So popular triathletes that utilize it is Kristian Blummenfelt, who has won Ironman and Kona, who has won Olympic gold medals, and Gustav Iden, who has also won in Kona and has been an exceptional triathlete across distances. Jacob Ingebrigtsen and his brothers have been proponents of it, predominantly through their father being their coach, and who's one of the key coaches that developed it. Olav Abu, who is the coach for Christoph and Gustav, and Marius Bakken. The three of those coaches are the three predominant coaches that developed the methodology, took a bit from each other, and developed the overall key principles of it. And also, X Mobility Pro Cycling Team are rumoured, and well, not necessarily rumoured, it's very highly likely that they're following some of the key principles as well, with Olaf Boo being one of their performance managers for this season. So the key features of the methodology is a high volume, low intensity training, having double threshold days where they do 2 sessions at threshold, one in the morning, one in the evening. And all the intensity is managed through lactate levels and regular monitoring of that within the sessions. So high volume, low intensity. The elite runners are doing 160 to 200 kilometers per week of training. Now, the significant amount of it is about 80% of their training is at that low intensity. And I'll talk about intensity a bit more shortly, but the predominant reason for that low intensity is for recovery and also to enhance their aerobic capacity and the efficiency of their heart and lungs. So that side of things is not too dissimilar from traditional, even old school Arthur Lydiard type training. Double threshold days is where things get a little bit different. They frequently perform 2 threshold workouts per day with lactate levels particularly between 2 to 3 millimoles per litre of blood lactate. This intensity is high enough to stimulate adaptation, but also allow it to occur frequently without a massive accumulation of fatigue. Lactate controlled intensities, it's confirmed multiple times throughout the workout. And if you look at any of the training videos on YouTube from any of those key athletes, or particularly Lionel Sanders when he was going through his Norwegian methodology, very regular testing of that blood lactate, either from a finger prick or from an ear prick, managed, and then they go continue running or cycling, and then get that blood sample taken again repeatedly throughout the session. This avoids them training too hard because they're trying to modulate that intensity between particularly those 2 and 3 millimolars, depending on the aim of that particular session. Other features of the Norwegian Method, very limited high intensity sessions. The true high intensity VO2 max sessions are used very infrequently and usually only in the final lead up to events. The bulk of the intensity work that they do is all at threshold. The purpose behind this is for the long-term development and consistency of that training throughout the season, to basically get continual sustainable progress, that sort of building up and continually improving. So if we look at an overview of Kristian's training, we're looking at that high volume polarized training. He's doing 20 to 30 hours per week, long, steady aerobic sessions predominantly throughout the week, particularly with swimming and cycling. as a triathlete, he's wanting to set himself up for that fast effort at the end of the race with the running. Lactate testing and metabolic profiling that's done consistently throughout the season, regularly. Those of you that are cyclists will know that I recommend the FTP ramp tests every 4 to 6 weeks, and we try and keep on top of that. So we're measuring and seeing where you're at. Those doing running, we do regular performance testing on that as well, checking in, seeing that progress. Same concept behind the lactate testing and the metabolic profiling. All of Boo uses indirect calorimetry and lactate curves. And that's fancy scientific talk to say they wear a mask, all the breath that's exhaled is analysed, and they look at all the data from that to see how much energy is coming from carbohydrates, how much is coming from fat, by looking at the proportion of oxygen compared to carbon dioxide as they're exhaling. During the week, they'll have double and sometimes even triple sessions per day. Routinely, both of them, they're running, cycling and swimming most days of the week. An example given down the bottom there from an article I was reading when I researched this, starting off the day with a 4 to 5 kilometre swim in the morning, during the middle of the day going for a long 3 to 4 hour bike ride, and then finishing the day with an easy run. Olav Boo also has them regularly in altitude training and heat adaptation camps, just constantly topping up that extra load on the body. The altitude helps stimulate the production of erythropoietin, which is what helps produce red blood cells. So it gives them that aerobic capacity. They also include race simulation and lots of transition practice with specific brick sessions, and just constantly transitioning from discipline, or particularly cycling, to running, so that they get used to it and practice the technical aspects of that. They also consume a lot more carbohydrates per hour than has scientifically been recommended in the past. Now, 90 to 120 grams of carbohydrates is almost double what a lot of the scientific literature from 20 years ago was recommending. We've also seen a number of races, particularly the T100s, where Kristian Blummenfelt is vomiting. His body hasn't been able to absorb the carbohydrates. His stomach's got full of it, and the body needs to deplete that somehow, and expelling it back out the way it came in was the consequence of that. So I think there's a lot more work they need to do on there and get that balanced, or get that familiarity with it. And recovery. With everything they're doing, recovery is key. They regularly schedule easy days, and sleep is prioritized, not just the main overnight sleep, but also naps during the day or throughout the day to keep on top of that recovery. So just looking at intensity, it's based around 3 zones. The concept of having 2 thresholds, LT1 and LT2, is basically the defining point between the 3 zones, with LT1 being between the easy and the moderate, and LT2 being between the moderate and the hard. Now, these zones, there's a lot of scientific literature you can read about it. It roughly lines with what often referred to as a ventilatory threshold, but in terms of their methodology, they're making measurements with lactate meters and looking at the 2 millimolar line, where that everything below that is their easy intensity, and then the next line in the sand is the 4 millimolar. Once they're up above 4 millimolar, that's the hard intensity, and they're doing most things they can to avoid getting to that level of intensity. A lot of training methodologies is based around using the single threshold term, and that's referred to as functional threshold power for cycling or for running, if you're using a running power meter, or lactate threshold. And that's the upper end of things. That's the intensity you can sustain maximally for about 60 minutes of steady state exercise, whether that exercise is cycling or running or kayaking or swimming. So it's adding an extra measurement in there. So if we look at the threshold intensity, that's the moderate intensity between LT1 and LT2. So they're trying to keep between that 2 millimolar and 4 millimolar. And they actually break this down into two, we'll say, subzones. The medium threshold, which is where the blood lactate is below 3 millimolar, which is about the equivalent of 80 to 85% of functional threshold power when cycling. Or the other option is the high threshold, which is above that 3 millimolar, but still below 4 millimolar of blood lactate. This is around the 86 to 90% of functional threshold power. So those using my zones, we're talking about level 3, the upper end of level 3 for the high threshold, the bottom or the middle of level 3 for the medium threshold. Another common term is tempo or sweet spot. So they're training at that intensity for their hard sessions and avoiding going over that 4 millimolar for 99% of the training they are doing. And the only time they're going above that 4 millimolar is in the final few weeks with some key dedicated sessions. So here's some example days of double threshold sessions, a couple of bike options and a couple of run options there. The first option, 5 by 5 minutes running at medium threshold in the morning with a single minute of recovery between those 5-minute efforts. Then follow that up with a second session in the afternoon, 10 by 2 minutes, run at that hard threshold, that higher intensity with 1 minute rest interval in between. Though 1 minute recovery, that's long enough for them to get the finger prick, get that blood sample taken, get that result on the machine, and then head off on the next rep. So that might be done on a Tuesday, and then on the Friday, they might be looking at a session in the morning, 4 by 10 minutes on the bike at the medium threshold with a longer 5-minute recovery, and then follow that up in the afternoon with 10 by 1 minutes on the bike at the hard threshold with 1 minute recovery. And the other examples there are basically the same style of workout or even exact same workout depending on which session you're looking at. So, is this beneficial for the recreational athlete? Is it going to work for you? In its purest form, the Norwegian method is effectively for elite athletes and elite athletes only. They've got unlimited time to train. They can do the volume, and they've also got unlimited time to train to recover from that volume that they do. Those hard days are very hard, but conversely, their easy days are very easy. Just a lot of volume needs to be done. We can include some of these concepts in the training of recreational athletes, but I don't believe we necessarily should. In a training camp where you're training, and it might be you go away to another venue, or you can do a weekend training camp from home, maybe take the Friday off work and have 3 days of hard training, and then the following week looking to recover. That might be your opportunity to do some double threshold days. But the key thing is the recovery. Recreational athletes in their typical week don't have the unlimited time to recover like an elite athlete does, and they also don't have the time to do the massive volume that elite athletes are doing. Any questions? So nothing from Jason. Big shake of the head there. Stu's shaking his head. Chloe, not keen for include this in your training? All right, no questions on the Norwegian training methodology. Any questions about your training or any training or racing related questions at all?
Just one question, right, Diane?
Yeah, go for it, Diane.
How much with cadence? How much importance should I be putting on that? And I'm only very recreational and sort of just
Are we talking
a weekend
cycling
warrior.
or with your run training?
Pardon?
Are we talking for cycling or for your run
Run,
training?
run training?
I wouldn't worry about it. The reason for that, we've got a lot of other things to focus on. As you're running faster, you'll naturally run at a faster cadence. Often, a lot of people will also increase their stride length simultaneously, or usually not as much as the increase in the cadence. But with your easy runs, just go with what comes naturally, and we can look at it and look at your cadence. If we look at your long run, and I haven't looked at your cadence with running because I'm not too worried about that. We can look at that long run, see what your cadence is in that, and then we can look at some of the intervals you've done lately, and you'll notice that the cadence, I'll put money on it without having looked at it, that your cadence during the faster paced intervals will be higher. It's just we naturally, as we increase speed, we increase the turnover of our legs. Doesn't quite work that way with cycling because we're not getting the distance out of each, or with running, we're getting the distance out of each stride. Whereas with the cadence with cycling, because our feet are attached to the pedals, we're only getting that same distance. It's a lot more related to the gearing in the cycling world. So, short answer for you, don't worry about your cadence for your run sessions, but there will be a natural increase when you're running faster compared to when you're running easily.
Cool. Thank you.
So
Go for it, Jason.
just
Oh, Stu's unmuted. You go first, Stu, and then we'll come back to Jason.
just query, like, so today I did a ride with someone who's obviously quite slow. So it was a rather, well, I'm just wondering if it's detrimental to ride with someone that takes 3 hours to do a 50K ride when, like, I was just in the small chain ring spinning and waiting. Will that have a negative effect, or is that going to help with recovery, I guess?
Well, yeah, a low intensity training is always going to be beneficial for recovery. What compromises that recovery or reduces it is the duration. So 3 hours in no one's spectrum, unless you're a professional cyclist, a 3 hour ride is not normally a recovery ride. Your intensity was nice, low intensity, so you didn't get a massive training stress score as a result of it. So you'll be fresher tomorrow based on the lower intensity compared to going out on the normal Sunday bunch that you'll often go with, where the intensity is a little bit higher. You'll get a lot higher training load from that and need to recover from that higher training load. In terms of at this stage of your training, you're a long way from your main goals next summer. So the benefits of it are huge. You're going out there, you're a lot more social at that lower intensity. You're encouraging and contributing to someone else's growth and development in the sport. The 3 hour ride is still a 3 hour ride. You were breathing the whole time, your heart was pumping blood the whole time. So there was an accumulation of those activities. At that lower intensity, you're getting the aerobic efficiency improvements. The heart and lungs are getting good at drawing in the air into the lungs, absorbing that oxygen, shipping it off to the cycling muscles, and then exhaling out carbon dioxide. So all those benefits you're still getting. So short answer, yes, very valuable for you, particularly at this time in your build up before you start getting focused. When I talk about periodization of a season, we start off nice and early with very generalized training. That ticks that generalized training box nicely. As we get closer to your event, if we're talking 1 to 2 months out, then I'll say probably not the most optimal training to be doing 1 to 2 or even 3 months out from your event. We're wanting to be a lot more targeted, dial in that intensity a bit more. This stage of the build up, big tick, no issues at all.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.
Jason, back to you.
Yeah, mine's almost the other way. What's the detriment of effectively running too quick? So I had the planned session today and really struggled to get down to the pace that I was supposed to be at. I think my average pacing was still 5 or so seconds fast, and that was a conscious effort to try and get slower and slower and slower. But in terms of effort and that sort of thing, it didn't really feel like there was anything going out. But just wanted to check in and see sort of what that detriment is or how that affects it or whether or not I've in fact got my pacing zone correct.
Well, yeah, the first thing that runs through my mind is it's probably time that we just double check and see what you're currently capable of and just realign your training zones. Now, you've well recovered from your last major event and haven't had too much training. So there's going to be a change in your physical performance based on the fact that you've had unstructured training for a few weeks and you're going to be reasonably well recovered. It might be that you're actually quicker now that you're well recovered through having done no training. You've built on that bulk of training you did. Now you've recovered from that fully and you're fresher and you can actually perform slightly better. You have been doing some training, which has been great. So that's ticking things over nicely. So I think we'll realign your training zones and see where you're at. Secondly to that, if your training zones are correct and you're running or can't slow down enough, what's happening is you're loading your body up with a little bit more load than was designed or scheduled for you. And you need to spend a bit of extra time to recover from that. So it could be compromising your capability. Instead of working on building that aerobic fitness with the longer steady runs, we're just putting a little bit more load. You're running a little bit harder. You're going to have a little bit of lactic acid that needs to be cleared and recover from. And so running too fast, particularly running, but also cycling or swimming at too higher an intensity has a detrimental effect to that training. And you also need to load up and emphasize that recovery. So in the next few weeks, look forward to some fitness testing and we'll see where you're currently at and just realign your training zones if needed, or we'll confirm them.
I don't regret asking that question at all.
You can be just like Stu and say, nah, I'm not going to do the FTP ramp test that you're recommending. I'm just going to wait it out and change my zones by myself.
You've got a lot more qualifications than I have.
And I didn't say that. I said I was going to stick to 254.
I'm summarising things, Stu. How about you, Chloe? Kia ora. Any questions from you this evening?
Kia ora. No,
Your
I've got
training's
an
been ticking
assessment
along
due in the
nicely.
morning. Huh?
Your training's been ticking along nicely now that you're recovered and back into things.
Yeah, so much better. Yeah, I had a real good week, so hopefully that continues.
Nice work. High five to you.
Thank you. Studies ramping up a bit because it's end of term, so I have a few assessments, but I'll just make it all work because I somehow always do.
Nice. Good luck with that as well.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from anyone? All right. Without
Good news,
any questions.
Chloe. You've only got 45 weeks till Wanaka.
Oh my God, I've been getting hassled so bad that yes, I should do it.
It's the social aspect and the drinking after. I mean, the drinking before the event to
Well,
hydrate.
to be fair, one of my cousins in Wanaka works at, I don't know, one of the breweries or something, but she knows everyone down there in the beer scene, so we'd be hooked up there for sure.
Welcome to the team.
Sounds like your name is getting penciled in there, Chloe.
Yeah, I think it's a pencil for me. If anybody else could do it from my end, it would be a permanent marker, but I don't have a good reason to say no, I guess.
I can think of a good reason, but I won't air that in this environment. I.e., you won't be in the South
okay.
Island.
Oh, that soon, you reckon? I'm not sure.
I'll talk to you about that offline.
Okay.
All right. Any other final questions before we wrap things up? All right. Well, thank you, team. Ka kite anō. Have a fantastic week. Enjoy your training. Make the most of each opportunity to get out there and deliver the goods. And those riding velocity on Tuesday morning, I will see you then.